Hey everyone! Today we're going to be talking about March of the Metronome for Violin 1. This is the breakdown video, so if you'd like to play along with me to the metronome, click on the play along video for this piece. Before we go into detail, let's talk a little bit about the goal tempo of this piece, which is chord note equals 120. The key signature is G major, meaning there's only one sharp and no flats, and that one sharp is F sharp. Now let's take a look at some of the difficult passages that you may encounter when you're practicing this piece. The first thing we're going to look at are measures 3 and 4 of section A. So third and fourth measure of A. And we're looking at this part because you'll see a couple fourth finger fingerings that I put into this piece, and it's basically to help you avoid any string crossings. When you're playing at a fast tempo, it's sometimes nice to just be able to use your fourth finger, even though it's a difficult finger, instead of crossing strings, which will slow you down or have more potential for tones that you don't want. Let's take a look at the third and fourth measure of A. So we're starting up bow on the G string second finger. Once we get to the fourth measure, we have the fourth finger right on the downbeat. So go ahead and put your elbow slightly closer in towards your body so that you can reach your fourth finger easily. So here's the third and fourth measure of A under tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how that fourth finger was an easy stretch for me because I kept my elbow pretty tight and close to my body. So think about that when you're playing and using all of your four fingers in this piece. Now let's look at the two measures that come after it. Here we have some string crossings between G and D string, which will help us warm up for crossings between D and A later. So let's take a look at these two measures under tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how the two notes that I played on the D string, which is the first finger E, as well as the open D, my elbow is a little bit lower than when I was playing on the G string. Always remember, the higher the string, lower the elbow. The lower the string, the higher the elbow. Now let's take a look at one measure before D. So this time you'll have a melody that's on the A and D string. So let's work on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So keep your violin steady and make sure to lead those bow changes and string crossings with your elbow. Looking ahead, when you're seeing 3 measures before E, that's another fourth finger spot, but this time it's on the A string. So let's practice 3 measures before E slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 2 notes of that passage are the hardest. You're going from a second finger to a fourth finger, and sometimes that could be a difficult stretch. And if that is difficult for you, all you have to do is lift the second finger after you play it. And that way you won't have to hold it down and you can concentrate on your pinky for that E. The last part I want to look at before we talk about tone is the very last measure of the piece. Make sure to count the first and last rest and play those open string pizzicatos with your right hand. Here's the last measure of the piece slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now let's look a little bit at tone and dynamics. So in the beginning at A, our first entrance for Violin 1 were piano. It is our only piano section of the piece, so just remember to stay soft and be quiet and listen to the rest of the section when you're playing with other people. Now when you get to D, that is the place to come out. That is our only true forte section. So really play up at D, dig in, and sing out. Another thing to remember is 4 measures from the end, we have a crescendo over 2 bars, meaning that we will gradually get louder as we play those 4 half notes. Let's work on those 2. First without the crescendo, and then second time with the crescendo getting louder as we go through those 4 measures. So here are the last 4 measures without the crescendo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how I didn't play the crescendo and I was just focused on the notes. Once you get the notes down, the second time through, add the crescendo in. And to do that, you have many options. You can use more bow, which is always the easiest and most obvious choice. You can also press harder, which sometimes we don't think about. And the last option is contact point, where your bow is on the string. So it's really hard to play loud when you're closer to your fingerboard, and it's easier when you're closer to the bridge. So just remember your amount of bow, your bow pressure, meaning how hard you press into the string, and your contact point, where your bow is on the violin. All 3 of those will help you get louder. So let's try the last 4 measures with that in mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's it for the breakdown video for March of the Metronome Violin 1. Let's head over to the play along video and play this whole piece together at quarter note equals 120. Thank you so much for listening.